Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Anjum from Sahitya Abhyasa Academy. Today I am going to give a class on Introduction to Literary Criticism and a theory and shall see the differences between literary theory and criticism. It is a syllabus of MA first year, MA in English first year syllabus, paper 2, unit 1. So let's begin with the criticism. What is criticism? It is a term meaning judging or evaluating or analyzing anything like art, music, film, ideas and behavior. So criticism means it is a general term where we easily show our judgment towards the thing, and we can easily evaluate the things, and we also analyze the things on the art, music, film, ideas, behavior. So like film means once we watch the movie, we show our own views on that. By analyzing that movie, we give our own words. By analyzing that movie, and we give our own judgment towards that movie. That is what called criticism. By seeing tomato, we judge by seeing the tomato. This tomato is not that much what we expected. Let this price in a low price. If someone tells you that the tomato's price is very high, means again you are just observe the tomato and give your own opinion. Observe is nothing but analyzing way and evaluating way, then judging yourself. No, this vegetable does not cost more, let it to give it in a very less amount for the tomato. That is what called criticism. First you outwardly observe the things, then you analyze that one and evaluating that one, and finally give your judgment. That is what called criticism. Then what about literary criticism? It is a specific type of a criticism. What kind of a specific? That ideas only with the on novels, poetry or drama. Sorry. So it is a specific type of criticism. If you want to give your specific comment on that particular literature works like novels, poetry or a drama, and it studies the meaning, form, value, impact on literature. So see, this is how what it tells. Literary criticism means it is nothing but it is a type of a criticism that deals with the literature. Yes, literary criticism means it is a specific type of a criticism. You want to give the specific opinion on particular thing from the literature like novel, poetry, drama. So there you have to introduce yourself, introduce your own opinion, introduce your own judgmental thoughts, introduce your own analytical thoughts on that particular work called novel, prose, poetry. For example, as we know in ancient critic, what like Aristotle and Longinus, okay now, there comes under ancient critics. What they focused on the things, especially they focus on rules, form and purpose. Writing any kind of a work, you should follow certain rules, you should follow some form. What are the way we should follow the form, and reason and purpose behind to write the work. This is what the words comes in a criticism way, critical way. That is ancient critics. What about romantic critics? What they put their own notion on criticism, like Wordsworth or Coleridge, they valued that emotion and imagination through the form of their work. Yes, they also made a criticism on the particular work. Those work express the imagination and emotions, if there is must be. So this is what they put the rule. If you write any romantic work, if you want to criticize on the romantic things, or if you see any kind of a work which is published under romantic era, that era's work must be included emotions and feelings. What about the next one? Like modern critics, what about the modern critics does? They like Eliot, Brooks, Fry, the modern critics, what they give their own rules on writing criticism. What kind of? The first thing is that they analyzed the form. What are the formation the writer has utilized in his work? First they observe the form. And the next, structure. Getting my point? In which structure, in a which pattern this work is written. And the next, myth. What are the myth we can get from that work? So this is what called modern critic has made their own rules, made their own focus on criticizing the literature works like poetry, prose or a novel. Okay. Then what about the contemporary critics? Contemporary critics, what they focus on criticism, especially they focus on explore the ideas, identity, politics and society. When they take work for purpose of criticism, first they focus on identity. In which identity we can see in this particular work, and what is the condition of, what is the position of politics in that work, how the politics is ruled over period in that particular work. And the second one is what is the condition of that society. So but among these things they are going to make their own criticism. Getting my point? Criticism means each era, every writer, they have given their own rules by criticizing on particular work. This is what we call it is a criticism. Okay. Next, then what is exactly literary criticism means? Here the practice of analyzing. If there is any work, first criticism means they just made some rules by criticizing any particular work. Yes, like poetics, Longinus, how they show their own words to word, what kind of poetry should be written, how the way should be applied by writing the poetry. That is what called criticism. So further, what is literary criticism means? Here the practice of analyzing and interpreting and evaluating literary works using different theories and approaches. Yes, if you see any work which is taken from the literature, first apply one particular method or practice. Means method or a just select any one of method, like whether it is you are going to study about the Marxist point of view, feminist point of view, post-colonial point of view, structural point of view. Getting my point? You should first select the thing. Yes, I am going to use the method called Marxist point of view on that particular. If you select the Marxist point of view means there you need to analyze properly. Then properly shows your own interpretation, and then the words which you have read in that work and the words you are giving your own words, and start to analyze that one, start to evaluate that one. And literary was using different theories or approaches. With taking one work, we can apply in many methods. That is what called literary way of criticizing that many kind of a methods. That is what literary through the form of Marxist, in the point of feminist point or a post-colonial point, we just put on our own ideas on that work. That is what called literary criticism means. You might have selected one thing, that is post-colonial thought. What is we can reflection, what kind of a reflection we can see particular work from the post-colonial point of view. There you need to study and analyze your own way and start to interpret that work. That is what called literary criticism. Hope so you have understood a little bit. Let's come out. So here furthermore, it is how we apply literary theory to a specific poem. See, I just told you now, this is how we apply. These are the literary theories like Marxist theory, post-colonial theory, structuralism theory, feminist theory. These are the theories. How we apply on the poem, how we apply on the poem or a novels or a plays that understand the meaning and value. By taking the one thing and giving so much study on that particular work and put on your own words is called literary criticism. For example, that is taking the one of literary theory. As I told you now, whether you are going to point out this work in a Marxist point of view or feminist point of view, and the way you explain yourself, the way you criticize that particular work is called literary criticism. Let's begin. Then what about literary theory? What about literary theory is what about literary theory? Theory means according to general idea to explain by applying to science, society, language, art, etc. Here it is a general term is that to explain the things by applying the science, technology, language and art. By following these steps is called just a theory. Then what about literary theory? What about literary theory? It is a set of ideas, principles, methods used to understand and analyze and interpret literature. So it is a set of ideas. Furthermore, we can tell it is a specifically it deals the specifically with the literature to explain how to read. If you take the Marxist point, this is what the theory. Okay, this is a kind of a theory. Theory teaches to you that if you take the Marxist point to study on that particular work, first you need to study how to read, how to interpret, and how to understand, in which, if there is any particular work, how many times the Marxist or a feminist points can be seen in that particular work. You need to get those, you need to collect those are the ideas. It is a set of ideas and put on your own notion on that work. That is what called literary theory. Yes, it is a set of ideas. If there is any particular work, there you need to collect all those ideas in that particular work. In that particular work, first you need to collect in which scene, in a which line we can see the influences of Marxist or reflection of Marxist point, or reflection of feminist point, or a reflection of post-colonial point. Then you just make that set of ideas or the principles. What are the method you need to follow that one while collecting that ideas, and the methods used to understand. Yes, these are the methods for knowing the particular topic called Marxist or post-colonial, and analyze it and interpret it in literature. Take that work, analyze that, and interpreted that work on the taking of particular one method, that is Marxist. If you take this point, this work studying as a Marxist point means here you need to collect those are the ideas and follow the principles in a which way you need to criticize that one, and follow the methods in a which way I need to explain and complete understand this exact point of that literature and put your notion and create your own theory is called literary theory. Getting my point? Shall see furthermore. Especially it focus, see, it gives you different ways to seeing the text for according to literary theory. First, it is looking at it through the lens of gender. Yesterday I told you, right? Putting the goggles, whether yellow goggle, green goggle, yes, blue goggle. If you put on yellow goggle, you will see the whole color of the world will be yellow. If you wear that green goggle, means the whole world look like a green. Like once you hold the work, outwardly observe whether it expresses the Marxist theory or feminist theory or post-colonial theory. Or if you observe the work through the in your own perspective of a post-colonial point, you will get so many points in that work. Getting my point? That is what called literary theory. So it may be specially the lenses on gender, race, class, psychology, or a language. On these things you are going to show your own words is called literary theory. If there is any work, first you observe about the gender. What kind of the behaviors of that character, what kind of the race that character are facing. Like Othello, belong to the Moor community and completely looking like a black. How the world or a Barbencio and Desdemona treated towards to him. Getting my point? That is what means putting the lens, means any kind of a color, means whether it is a Marxist, whether it is a post-colonial, whichever you take the theory and try to apply on that. Yes, that is what called literary theory. It might be studied on, we can focus on race, class, psychology, or any kind of a language. That is what called literary theory. And let's begin about the literary criticism, some definitions on literary criticism. Literary criticism is the study, evaluation, and interpretation of literature using various methods and theories. Taking Marxist view and start to evaluate that. What are the things it is used? How? Getting my point? First, evaluation ಕೈಗೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮೇಲೆ. ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸೀನ್ಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಹೈಲೈಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಇಂಟರ್ಪ್ರಿಟೇಟೆಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ಆಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಮದೇ ಆದ ಒಂದು ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಕೈಗೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು of the literature using various methods. Yes, and next, simplified definition. It is the practical side of a theory or where we use the theoretical ideas to analyze or and explain literary theory. Withholding one theory, any kind of a types of theory, types of literary criticism, and start to give your own theoretical ideas to analyze and explain literary works. That is what called literary criticism. It is the art of interpreting and evaluating literature. Yes, judgment ಆಗಿ ಕೊಡುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡೋದು ಥಿಯರಿ, ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಡೋದು criticism. So here we can see any work of literature, our duty is to judge on that work by evaluating, by interpreting, yes, by analyzing on that particular work. That is what called criticism. Next, what about literary theory? General definition. Literary theory is a set of ideas and a method used to understand how literature works and how it creates a meaning. Very nice. See, here we need to create some ideas, make some ideas and utilize our own methods and to understand literature. What if I see this work in the perspective of Marxism? What I can put my perspective in the work called Othello in a feminist point. Yes, it helps to understand and what kind of a meaning it arises. I will give this definition on particular literary theory. Okay. And next, literary theory provides the tools and lenses through which we read and interpret the text. Very nice. Tools. Many kind of a tools to us. And lenses means putting the goggles on your eyes through which we read and interpret it. What to study? and how to interpret the text. For example, if we see the toolbox, there we can see the hammer as spade, kind of sharp things. Just we select one tool and start to work on that. This is theory, this is criticism. Theory and criticism. Getting my point? So here it helps us ask what is literature, what is its function, how does it represent the world. That is, theory means what is literature, how it works, how it functions, and what are the things it gives to the worlds. There we need to observe the things. Okay, for example, Louis Tyson, author of Critical Theory Today, what he says: literary theory is a body of ideas and methods we use in a practical reading of literature. Whatever the ideas and methods are included in a work, we need to identify that one and make it into practical reading. That is theory. Another view, theory is not about the judging. It is very important, note. Theory means it is not about the judging whether the book is good or bad. Instead, that it is about understanding the deeper meanings and structure, ideologies and effects in literature. Getting my points? Yes. Here we can see the Othello, how it affects to the society. They won't bother about that. They won't judging this work, how much affects on. Judging work is a criticism. ಜಡ್ಜಿಂಗ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಅನಲೈಸಿಕಲ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ಕ್ರಿಟಿಸಿಸಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಥೇರಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನ್ರಿ? ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ದ ಡೀಪರ್ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಹೌ ದ ರೋಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಡೆಸ್ಟಮನಾ represent in this work, how the role of Othello represent in this work, going deeper into the text. That is what called theory. That is what called theory, literary theory. And a structure, what are the formation it is utilized, about the language, text, ideologies, what kind of ideologies we can identify in the characters, the main protagonist of that work, and effects in a literature, how it affects to the readers. So this is what the called theory. So getting my point, theory is, it is not about the judging whether it is a good or a bad. Instead, that it is the work of understanding the deeper meaning like structure, ideologies and effects in a literature. ಎಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅದು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಏನೇನು ಒಳಾರ್ಥವನ್ನು ಕಲ್ಪಿಸಿಕೊಡ್ತದೆ. ಔಟರ್ಲಿ this work is a good, that is criticism. This works in this work we can see characters are suffering from patriarchal dominance. This is what theory. Getting my point? So this, if this sentence express the patriarchal society, means here we can see the dominance means Marx's point. That is what called theory. No, I think you have got it. So in a one word we can see literary theory is nothing but it is the ideas and philosophies of literature. Ideas, finding out new ideas and find out the new philosophies in that particular work. What about criticism? It is practice of analyzing and interpreting what kind of this work, how it is written, is it a good, is it a bad. If I compare to the other work, what kind of a thing it gives. Getting my point? That is what analyzing or interpreting the literary text. Okay, hope so you have got it. Let have little more easy way about the literary theory and criticism. Literary theory is like a learning different cooking method. Literary theory is what? Learning different cooking method. Boiling, how to boil rice, beans, somewhat vegetables or grains, and frying, how to fry fish, chicken, how to fry, and baking, how much, at what time we should bake, how much time we should put in a marination. So here literary theory is like a learning different kind of a method, like boiling. Cooking means it comes many more things like boiling, frying, baking, yes, washing, somewhat. These are the methods of literary theory. What about criticism? When you actually cook a dish using one of those methods. Yes. If I take a fish, should I make it curry or fry? Getting my point? If I chose the frying means I just prepare the ingredients for that thing to make it in a proper, in a good dishes. That is what called criticism. Hope so now you have got. Okay, let's begin. Furthermore, theory and criticism. The term theory is ideas or a rules that help you understand, study literature. Whereas criticism, using those ideas in actual read and explain story or a poem. That is what criticism. We can see the major types of literary theory and literary criticism. Yesterday I had this class on types of criticism. So here we can see both are the literary theory and criticism types are almost the same, but the way interpretation of that each term is different. Got my point? Fine. Formalism text itself, form, style, language, structure. When the type comes about the formalism, according to the literary theory, what it study? It focuses on form, style, language and structure. Whereas Marxist theory, it tells about the class, power, economics and ideology. What about the feminist gender theory? It is about the gender role, women experiences and patriarchy kind of a things in a particular work that tells about feminist theory. What about psychoanalytical theory? It is about the psychology of a character or a authors, how they have behave in that particular work. Once they have heard someone has killed their father, what would be the reaction of listening that truth that his father is killed by someone means that moment, the psychologically how he treats himself or how he behaves in that particular moment. That study of that particular scene, particular moment is called psychoanalytical theory. And post-colonial theory means it affects colonization, race and identity. We are black, they are white. Westernization, yes, Western people are white, Eastern people are black. How it affects on our day-to-day life, or how we can identify this thing in a works, especially characters in a work. That is what called studying about the post-colonial. And what about the structuralism? Underlying the system like language, myths and code. What are the languages? It is structured in that particular work, studying about that. And post-structuralism means unstable meaning, deconstruction, multiple interpretation. Unstable meaning means you just go through the one dictionary. If you find any kind of a fruit or a price, the meaning of this price, you will find out so many words. Yes, synonymous word on that dictionary. Means word gives multiple meanings. That is what called post-structural. It not fixed on that particular word. So it is an unstable meaning. It only gives the only one meaning. If it gives one meaning, you will see another meaning. For example, if you found what is amount in the dictionary, you will find out here price, cost, pair. So this is how unstable meaning of particular word. These are the, so this is what studying about. What is that? Post-structuralism. How it apply in that theory means shall see in that works, in those works. Then what about the reader's response theory? Role in a creating meaning. If there is any work which is going to got the famous publicity, mean it is only possible the reader's review. Getting my point? That is what how the readers also played a prominent role, like writer's work also played. So we can see the reader's response theory also. And queer theory. LGBTQ identities, gender performance, whereas eco-criticism, relationship between literature and the environment. So these are the types where we can see how the theories are applied in a particular work. Okay, so this is about what types of theory. Let's begin the little differences between theory and criticism, because the types of criticism we have seen this types also: feminist criticism, Marxist criticism, and post-colonial criticism. In the types of theory also, again we'll see the feminist theory, Marxist theory, and post-colonial theory. So what are the concept it gives in their own way? That is what we need to know. That's why I put this thing. Let's begin. What about the, according to theory, feminist theory means it tells to you, look at gender roles, patriarchy, and female biases in a work. What it tells, feminist theory, what it tells to you, try to observe the gender's role. Yes, and patriarchy. What are the patriarchal society or patriarchal person is going dominance on women? What can, in a which way it shows the dominance on women? That is what you need to understand. And the female biases, whether they are active or silent. This is what it is the duty of observing in that work by following these are the things. That is what called feminist theory. What about feminist criticism? Examines how women are patriarched. Here in a feminist theory, how patriarchal rule over women. Here, how women are patriarchal, how they have accepted without making any questions, with silently, that about the patriarchal domination on them. That is what a criticism, and a silence, and to empowered in a text. So this is how here we can see the role of gender, patriarchy, female voices. It highlights these are the things. Here we can see how it is work on that. That is what called means. Here we can see the application of criticism, the concept of criticism. Understood? For example, there is a KGF movie. KGF movie. We can see the politics in that work. The introduce of politics is a theory. How it apply? Yes, to capture the KGF, there is one more politician has announced the third path of to take the entry in that KGF. Getting my point now? So outerly utilizing the methods, pointing out the methods is called theories, and how it applies in that work is called criticism. In a KGF, we see the love method or love theory or love thing also. Yes, that is what only the thing. But how it applies? She is very minor character. Yes, KGF movie we can see he gave the so much importance to mother's words than love. This is how he applies in the criticism. Now understood? Okay, let's begin. What about the Marxist theory? Tells you to focus on class. If you hold this text and put on the lens on your eyes and focus on Marxist theory, first you need to focus on class. Upper class, middle class, low class, in which category we can see what type of the character they have utilized in that work. And capitalism, can we see that kind of a dominance on that lower class people? And social equality, how they treat in that society. This is what called Marxist theory. How it applies in a criticism? Reveals how literature reflects challenges class struggle. Means here how the character are struggling to getting their position in that society. That is what called class Marxist criticism. Next, what about the post-colonial theory? Tells you to analyze colonialism and race and cultural identity. If there is a work, it is a duty of to identify first What is colonialism? Whether it is a running the part of this work. What about the race? Can be it is identified? What about the culture identity? Now come to the applications. Uncover racial bases and colonial control and identity conflicts and characters in characters and plot. Means here how the British people are controlling to the Indian people or colonized countries. If you read this text, it reflects the post-colonial theory. If you observe this thing, if you analyze this thing, if you interpret this thing, that is what the reflection of post-colonial theory. Hope so you have got. Next, psychoanalytical theory. How it tells you to study unconscious desires of characters, unconscious dreams and fears of that characters. This is what the method of theory, psychoanalytical theory. How it applies in a criticism? Explores characters' hidden emotions, mental conflict and symbolic behavior. Hamlet, after knowing his father's murderer, Uncle Claudius, how he behaves himself. He turns to become like a mad, pretend like a mad. This is what the studying of psychoanalytical theory and the criticism is applied in that work. We need to identify. The identification is a theory. And what are the words you identified? Those words are criticism. Hope so no, you got it. See how much I am giving the complete meaning of literary theory and criticism mean. Yes, it's okay, because being a literature student, each and everything we must know. We should not have any kind of a doubt on a particular thing called what is literary theory and what is literary criticism. Okay, so here you will get a Plato's one work, one concept, objection of poetry in a republic. It is completely about criticism. How he gives the rules, ideas on the works. This is what criticism. And next, structuralist theory tells you to look at the structure, pattern and binary opposition. What are the language they have used in that work? Observing is that structural theory. And how it is applied in a criticism? Analyze recurring structure, opposite and myths in the text. This is about what called criticism. Let's begin. One more, taking the one work, Tragedy by Shakespeare. Let's begin about the feminist method theory. Different theories help to see different layers in Othello. If I take the Othello work, what are the different methods I am going to observe this work? First, from the feminist point, it is about the gender roles, women's voice and patriarchy. We can see these are the sentences or words highlighting in that particular work called Othello. How it applied? Desdemona is controlled by her father and her husband. Getting my point? This is what the theory. And women, Desdemona and Emilia, are expected to be silent and obedient. So this is how the feminist theory is applied. Yes? And Emilia challenges patriarchy by speaking out of the end. At the end of the play, we can see how Emilia challenges patriarchal, means she openly tells to Othello, how could you do with Desdemona? She's completely innocent. Without knowing her, you killed her. She openly speak to the Othello. This is what at the end of the thing we can see Emilia challenged to patriarchy by speaking out of the end. So here we can see what is the exact critical idea. The play shows how women are victimized in a male dominated society. Yes. So here we can see how, means we can see the domination of patriarchal society in that literary work. In that work where we can criticize that work and we can use the methods. That is what called theory. What about the Marxist theory? focus on class, power and economic status. This is what reflect in that work. Iago feels inferior and overlooked, class resentment. So Iago has to take that promotion, but instead that Cashew has got that position. He feels very inferior. That reflects the class. Class reflects the Marxist theory. What about the critical idea? Power struggles and jealousy reflect class-based insecurities and control. So here we can see the power struggleness between the Cashew and Iago, and also shows the jealous. He is very junior than me. How he has got that position, how he got that promotion. This is what called jealous. And what about the psychoanalytical theory? Unconscious desires, jealousy, identity repressed feelings. It applied means Othello jealousy may come from deep insecurity about love and race. After giving that promotion to the Cassio, Iago has not sit silently. More than what he planned, he wanted to spoil the relationship between Othello and Desdemona. So that's why he made a plan that he put so many insecurities words in the mind of Othello that you are belong to the black community and Desdemona belong to the, she's very fair. If she accepted you, mean just think behind her plan, because she has many more affairs before getting married to you. So this is how putting a notion Iago in the mind of Othello make him deep insecurity about the love and race. I am very inferior. Yes, my love is not a value for in the eyes of Desdemona. This is what made to feel like that by the thoughts of Iago. So this is what. So next, what about the critical idea? The tragedy comes from inner emotional conflicts and repressed fears. We need to identify in that criticism and apply the theory. Yes, this line express the theory of this one like that. And of course the post-colonial theory, structuralist theory, queer theory. So final thought is that Othello doesn't follow any one theory. More than it reach, theory offers a different lenses and to understand its themes like race, gender, power, language and identity. These are the things, getting my point? These are the things we can collect, we can identify, or we can see these are the perspective on that particular work. This is about what called theory. Hope so now you have understood, because oftentimes I told about that post-colonial and structural now. That's why I skipped, because here I give that explanation here. Okay, fine. So tomorrow's class, hope so you have understood what is criticism, what is literary criticism, what is theory and what is literary theory, and what is the difference between literary theory and literary criticism. Thank you for this my class. I shall be coming up with the next video on MA first semester syllabus. Until, take care, bye bye.